And we're starting off the list with quantum computing. So unlike traditional computers, which use bits that are either 0 or 1, quantum computing uses qubits, which can represent any combination of both 0 and 1 at the very same time. This means they can perform complex calculations much quicker than the computers we use right now. Ivanka predicted breakthroughs in this technology playing out in 2024. Now, quantum computing isn't inherently bad, and it's definitely useful for solving complex problems, but there's a dangerous side to this type of technology. The major concern here is its potential ability to break encryption methods that we use day to day. Sensitive data could be leaked with far more ease than any hacker would be able to accomplish. Authentication systems that we have in place now could also become completely obsolete, leading to potential breaches and cyber attacks. More on cyber attacks later in the video, by the way. And at number 9, we have a global economic crisis. Ivanka made a prediction that in 2024 the world might face a massive economic crash. This means a lot of money troubles, people losing jobs, businesses struggling to stay open, and it becoming incredibly difficult for many to manage their money. A giant financial storm that could affect how we all live and work. And as to the cause of this economic crisis, well, we're not certain, as these are simply unfounded predictions not based on evidence or anything really tangible. But if some of the stuff coming up on this list really does play out, it won't be much of a surprise why money will be an issue for a large segment of the population. And on top of that, money would be the least of our problems. One possible cause of the global economic downfall could be related to the very next prediction on our list, though. At our number 8 spot, we have a global disease. The prediction here is that there will be a worldwide epidemic similar to that little thing we experienced back in 2020, only this time much worse. During these wonderful couple years where we were in and out of being locked away indoors and wearing masks everywhere we went, there was this idea floating around that maybe this whole thing was preparing us for something bigger, a pandemic that would be more deadly, more contagious, and spread around the world faster than anything we had ever experienced before. Whether this will be some intentional virus spread to enact, political control or something nature will throw at us. If this prediction does end up coming true and we are met with some kind of terrifying super virus, I just really hope we're prepared. There's also a chance that Baba just got our dates wrong and this global infectious disease already swept its way through the population in 2020 and it's all mostly dealt with. It's also possible that her prediction is just completely bogus, so keep your pants on. Next up on the list we have the mysterious disease. Now this prediction directly affects the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. According to old Baba, Trump is going to contract a mysterious illness next year that will cause brain trauma and deafness. Can't help but wonder if this will be the result of the same disease that we just discussed. Sounds pretty awful though. Not sure what the brain damage would entail, but losing your hearing, definitely something I would not wish on anyone. Number 6, a strong dragon will take over the planet. Ivanka spoke of a formidable dragon that would rise to prominence, and as cool as it would be for the Earth to be ruled by a winged, fire-breathing monster, she didn't mean dragon in the mythical sense. Instead, this quote-unquote dragon is a symbol of unity and power. This dragon, according to her visions, represents the coming together of Russia, India, and China, 3 major global players. What she essentially foresaw was this significant geopolitical development where these nations would forge a closer alliance and cooperate, forming a powerful bloc. And while she didn't really delve into the specifics about what this alliance would entail, the implications are pretty clear. The emergence of a powerful force that could totally reshape the political landscape of the world as we know it. This change in power could also potentially lead to another prediction that's been hinted at for 2024, a potential third world war, as said. Not fun to think about. Next up, we have the rise of AI. Apparently in 2024, the use of AI is going to skyrocket. completely changing the world as we know it. Out of pretty much everything on this list, this is something I can totally see happening because it already is. AI is progressing at an alarming rate, learning faster than any living person ever could. It's getting to the point where scientists are actually kind of concerned about AI gaining some form of sentience, and if that happens, we're most likely totally screwed. Not because AI would necessarily be intentionally malevolent and want to destroy us like Skynet, although it totally could, but mainly because it could easily replace us. Human expression, talent, and skill could become a thing of the past. Like, just look how quickly AI has already affected some industries. Writers and actors are on strike, animators and artists are fearing losing their jobs. I find AI really creepy, and I'm just hoping we're gonna find some way of integrating it in a way where it won't completely get out of control. At our number 4 spot, we have first contact with alien life. The Nostradamus of the Balkans predicted that extraterrestrials will finally make themselves known to us next year. Known to the public, anyway, if you're one of those folks who believes aliens are already amongst us. Introducing us to incredible new technology and changing the world as we know it, of course. Now, this could actually be positive. If they turn out to be friendly, this would be awesome. One step closer to that Star Trek world I've always wanted to live in. But if they're not so friendly, yeah, you know. Actually though, gotta say, if there's one way I'd want the world to end, it would be this. I think it would be pretty cool. Going out battling aliens, be a much more awesome way for humanity to go extinct. Definitely beats the planet being destroyed by a giant meteor or something. That's just kind of boring. Far less heroic. Maybe being invaded by aliens would finally force humanity to come together for once, too, realizing that we're not all that different after all. Sucks we'd need an alien invasion for that to come to fruition, but it is what it is, I guess. Next, we have a rise in natural disasters. Apparently, 2024 is going to be met with a number of crazy disasters, mostly due to climate change. Tsunamis, monsoons, hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. These disasters are predicted to cause widespread destruction and death. One specific prophecy relates to a powerful tsunami that will apparently hit Asia next year, being the most deadly since 2004. As to exactly where in Asia, not certain. Neither is the prediction, though. It's just that, it's a prediction. So for all the residents of Asia in the audience, don't panic yet. Take this with a grain of salt, a very heavy grain of salt. There's also predicted to be a major earthquake in the Pacific Rim. The shifting of tectonic plates in the Pacific Rim. We can have giant kaiju pop out of the ocean that we'll need to build giant-sized mechs in order to battle against. That would be pretty expensive. Could lead to a global economic collapse. Yeah, you see the dots starting to connect. And at number 2, we have chaos in Europe. Yeah, apparently Europe is going to go through a lot starting in 2024. You folks have some fun years ahead of you if Baba's predictions actually play out. Most of this relates to religious extremists unleashing more attacks on various parts of the continent, targeting both civilians and political leaders alike, one of whom is Vladimir Putin. Apparently someone from Russia is going to attempt to take him out. According to her, in the end, power will completely change hands in Europe, and it's not just that. Her predictions also stated that there would be a complete collapse of Europe's economy. All this will supposedly lead to displacement of many Europeans, with the continent being sparsely populated by 2025. So, word to the wise, you may want to hold off on your European vacations for the next little while, because it looks like things are gonna get pretty hairy. Finally, we have a rise in cyber attacks. Ivanka's vision of 2024 paints a pretty bleak picture of the digital realm, essentially becoming a battlefield, with malicious hackers orchestrating cyber assaults on an unprecedented scale. These attacks will apparently extend far beyond conventional data breaches and phishing attempts. Instead, they'll come about as like this sophisticated and highly destructive attacks that could compromise critical infrastructure, financial systems, even the fabric of society itself. Ivanka hinted that these cyber threats might have geopolitical implications, potentially altering the balance of power in the world as we know it today. There are some predictions that overlap. here. As you could probably see, quantum computing could be a major factor with this increase in cyber attacks, and the change of power on a global scale could be related to that strong dragon mentioned earlier. These cyber attacks could also partially be responsible for how messed up Europe is predicted to get. But I want to close this out with a bit of positivity. First of all, although Baba Vanga has made a number of predictions that have come true, she's also made ones that haven't. And for all the dark stuff here that's said to play out, there's some good stuff too. Apparently we might get incredible medical breakthroughs for things like cancer. We may discover a new form of unlimited clean energy and good things in the years following 2024. So there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And we're starting things off with the rising of sea levels. Climate change is something that's talked about a lot and has been a concern for years. A rise in natural disasters is one of the primary predictions by Baba Vanga, said to possibly come to a head in 2024, with a rise in sea levels being a major factor. It's a concerning issue that happens because of things like melting ice in polar regions and the expansion of seawater as it gets warmer. Over the years, the rising water can lead to problems like coastal flooding, erosion, and damage to communities near the coast. It's not something that happens overnight, but it's a slow and steady process. Many coastal areas and low-lying islands are at risk, and people living there might have to move or adapt to deal with higher water levels. Governments and scientists around the world are studying this problem and trying to figure out how to address it. They're looking at ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to slow down the warming of the planet, and also thinking about building stronger defenses like seawalls and flood barriers. At number 9, we have the asteroid, a list of dark predictions with an asteroid involved. Definitely ominous. Fear not though, this one won't be as bad as the one that killed off all the dinosaurs. The prediction doesn't specify exactly where this asteroid will hit or exactly how large it will be, but it's predicted to be powerful and destructive enough to result in a considerable loss of life. But as I said, it doesn't mean the end of the world. Baba Vanga has tons of predictions that go far beyond 2024. In fact, according to her, the world isn't supposed to end until 5079, so we still have some time, depending on whether or not you believe her, of course. The world could totally end far past 5079, or it could end in like 5 minutes. You'd never know. Next on the list, we have unethical surveillance. Now, this is something that's already taking place. We have cameras on us almost everywhere we go, and we may not even know it, but advances in surveillance technology are supposedly going to skyrocket in the coming year. The rise in unethical surveillance technology is a growing concern. Here you have the development of tools and systems for monitoring people without their consent or knowledge. This technology can include invasive tracking devices, hidden cameras, and software that collects personal data without your permission. There's such a potential for stuff like this to be misused. Some would argue, most would probably argue, that it very much already is being misused. Governments, corporations, everyday individuals have a greater access to personal information than ever and could use it for purposes that violate ethical standards. Unwarranted spying on individuals, mass data collection without consent. Just look at all the ads you get on Google just based on things you've talked about with a friend. It's creepy. Or, the use of surveillance to discriminate or target specific groups could even be a thing. The consequences of unethical surveillance technology can be pretty severe. It could lead to breaches of personal privacy, erosion of trust, and potential harm to individuals and society as a whole. At our number 7 spot, we have a change in Earth's orbit. Now we're getting into some of the more outlandish predictions, but I'm here for it, and so are you, because you're watching me talk about it. Now, as to exactly what degree the orbit is predicted to change or how, it's uncertain, but this could obviously have some pretty dramatic consequences. Our planet is in a very fine balance, and even just the slightest change could throw things off completely. We could see huge disasters hit the planet, and again, one of Baba's big 2024 predictions is a higher level of natural disasters, so maybe they come about as a result of this shift. If Earth were to move closer to the sun, we would see a huge spike in temperatures and radiation at the other end of the spectrum, too far from the sun, and we could easily have another ice age on our hands, like the likes of which would be worse than the Earth has ever seen. Speaking of the sun though, at number 6 we have the solar storm. Baba Vanga predicted that we would experience a terrible solar storm in 2024, the worst in history. Solar storms occur when bursts of energy are emitted from the sun, releasing electrical charges, magnetic fields, and radiation out into the solar system. Usually these storms don't greatly affect us here on Earth, but if one happened to be particularly massive, it could have some pretty severe consequences. Technology could be disrupted, there could be massive blackouts, and if these were bad enough to cause lasting damage, it could lead to the economic issues she also predicted, as well as chaos, as people have become pretty reliant on technology and electrical power in our everyday lives. Some of you are definitely not old enough to remember the massive Northeast blackout of 2003, but it was pretty freaky. It affected 55 million people in 8 US states and parts of Ontario, Canada. It was hard to keep food cool. The subway system was of course down. People were, lighting candles and like reading. Honestly, some of it was kind of nice. A time to pause and actually reflect on how much we take everyday necessities for granted while actually going out and doing stuff besides watching TV into the late hours of the night. But had it gone on longer, things could have started getting bad very quickly. Coming in at number 5, we have bioweapons research. According to the Nostradamus of the Balkans, there will be some very dark research taking place in regards to bioweapons. As to where this research will take place, it isn't specified, just that a big country will be carrying out the research in the form of unethical experimentation on people. These experiments could lead to the loss of life on a huge scale. Now, of course, this would all be going on in secret, so verifying something like this could prove to be a bit of a difficult task. Biological warfare has to be one of the scariest forms of warfare out there to me. It's something you just don't see coming, almost impossible to fight against, causing mass hysteria in its wake. Definitely hope this one it doesn't come true, along with everything else on this list obviously, but especially this one. Next up we have a really weird one with the end of births. This is some of the sillier stuff that makes me much more skeptical of all the other predictions Baba Vanga has made. Apparently 2024 will see a full-on end to natural births. That's quite a bold prediction. Hard to see this one coming to fruition within the next year. Distant future? Possibly, but not anytime soon. Apparently there could be a ban on natural births, with humans being grown in labs instead. Gene editing technology could come into play here, a technology that's well into development already, allowing parents to choose what genetic traits their child would be born with. Again, I have a hard time seeing this one play out anytime soon. Gene editing, sure, but an outright ban on natural births? I don't know. At least not on a global scale. Then again though, maybe she wasn't talking about it happening on a global scale. Maybe this will only affect one country, for example. At number 3, we have Augmented Humans. 2024 is predicted to see a rise in technology that allows human beings to replace parts of their body with cybernetic implants. We already have technology like this, and it's great for people who were born without important body parts or lost them, but this type of technology also has the potential to get out of hand. When we start integrating technology into our bodies, there are concerns about privacy and security. Imagine if hackers could access your augmented body parts, or if the data from these enhancements was exploited somehow. It could lead to identity theft or other malicious activities. There's also the risk of inequality. Everyone might not have access to these enhancements, creating a divide between those who can afford them and those who can't. This would only make that gap between the haves and have-nots even wider. Another concern is dependence on technology. If we were to start relying too much on these enhancements, we might lose some of our natural abilities and skills. What if the technology fails or becomes obsolete? We could find ourselves in a pretty vulnerable position. Ethical questions arise as well. What happens when we enhance our cognitive abilities? Will it create unfair advantages in education or out in the job world? And when it comes to physical enhancements, Should athletes be allowed to use them in sports? There are some deep philosophical dilemmas here. When we merge with machines, what does it even mean to be a human? Might lose touch with our humanity or create a society where being normal means having artificial enhancements. It's a lot to think about. And at number 2, we have the environmental destructor. Yeah, that doesn't sound very nice. Sounds like some sort of comic book superweapon that instantly freezes anything in its path. Well, apparently that's exactly what it is, except this won't happen in a comic book, it'll happen in real life. Yeah, we're getting kooky here again, but I'm just gonna embrace it and imagine that this could actually be a thing. According to Baba Ivanka, the United States will be caught up in a war resulting in the development of a highly advanced weapon, a weapon that freezes things. I can see the ice-based pun memes now when this thing gets revealed to the public, and then everyone will start protesting that they have the right to have their own high-powered freezing weapon in their own homes, and I'd probably understand it. I'd want one too. Finally, we have the bird virus. Apparently some mysterious illness isn't only going to be potentially hitting human beings in 2024, but the birds as well. What birds? What virus? We don't know, but it could have quite an effect on our planet. Birds play a pretty big role in the ecosystem. If this virus was bad enough, it could spread to other animals as well. Predators who eat birds and maybe even human beings. Or the result of said virus could be zombie-like, get deranged birds swooping down from the sky to exact ruthless aggression against the non-flying animals of the earth. We could have a real-life version of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds on our cybernetic hands, but with all our unethical surveillance, we'd see them coming from miles away anyway, at least. And with our brand new environmental destructor weapons, we could freeze them in midair.
Coming in at number 10 is a new pope. Pope Francis is currently in his mid-80s and has suffered health problems in recent times, so it's not too far-fetched that it has been predicted that there will be a rise of a new pope in 2024. The prediction says, through the death of a very old pontiff, a Roman of good age will be elected, he writes. While the arrival of a younger, vigorous pope sounds like a good thing, Nostradamus immediately goes on to say that the new leader will weaken his see and that he will be pope for a long time. Now, the exact meaning of weaken is of course open to debate. Does he mean the influence of the church will somehow lessen, or is some greater scandal on the way? He also said he will not be the chosen Roman pontiff, he will not be heeded near or far, a dark-skinned youth aided by the great king will deliver the bag to another red one. Now, the reference to the dark-skinned youth in the verse suggests that the future pope will be a cardinal of African or Asian origin. Number 9. The Third World War. Nostradamus wrote that humanity will face 7 months of Great War in 2024. Now, researchers' opinions on the outbreak of World War III are divided, as some believe it will be a continuation of the war in Ukraine, while others foresee the possibility of a major conflict provoked by China over in Taiwan. Now, according to the prophecies, several world powers, including the United States, Russia, and China, will be involved in the new Great War. The Antichrist very soon annihilates the 27 years his war will last. The unbelievers are dead, captive, exiled, with blood, human bodies, water, and red hail covering the ear. Now, he even dares to point out how the conflict will start, with a strange event related to planes or submarines, something unusual that will cause a reaction, and from that moment, the situation will be out of control, in his own words. Yeah. That does not sound good. Now, with the mention of China, many believe he might be referring to a nuclear war, as the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists and Federation of America Scientists estimated in 2023 that China has a stockpile of approximately 410 nuclear warheads, while the United States Department of Defense's put the estimate at more than 500 operational nuclear warheads. Number 8. Earthquake on the West Coast. Nostradamus also predicted a terrible earthquake that would cause widespread destruction in California and result in many deaths. The verse indicating this great catastrophe says, on the 20th day of Taurus, the sun will tremble the earth, the great packed theater will collapse, the air, heaven, and earth will darken and become cloudy, when the false god and saints be swept away. Now, the interpretation suggests that the 20th day of Taurus refers to May 20th, when the sun enters the zodiac sign of Taurus, and that the big theater could be Hollywood or Los Angeles. Now this could make sense because of the San Andreas Fault. A fault is a planar crack in a rock along which slippage has taken place. Most faults are small, even microscopic, and are not important, but some faults are many miles long. For years, people have been worrying about the San Andreas Fault rupturing. Overall, such a quake would cause some $200 billion in damage, 50,000 injuries, and 2,000 deaths, researchers estimated. But it's not so much about dying in the earthquake, it's about being miserable after the earthquake and people giving up on Southern California, says one of the researchers. Everything a city relies on to function, water, electricity, sewage systems, telecommunications, roads, would be damaged and possibly not repaired for more than a year. Without functioning infrastructure, the local economy would easily collapse and people would abandon Los Angeles. Number 7. Trump 2024. One prophecy that has recently garnered attention is the potential return of Donald Trump to the highest office in the United States in the 2024 presidential election. While Nostradamus' cryptic verses do not explicitly mention Trump, some interpreters suggest that it hints that he will be back. He said, "When the white dragon returns, America will be in chaos again. He will divide the nation and will bring conflict and violence. The great power will be weakened and the world will be in danger. Only the brave and the wise will be able to stop the white dragon." Nostradamus' foresight seems to suggest that Trump's second term, if it indeed occurs, will be filled by a series of scandals and controversies. It said these revelations could cut deep into the fabric of the nation, furthering dividing the American people and tarnishing Trump's reputation. Accusations of corruption, misconduct, or financial impropriety may arise, leading to calls for his impeachment or resignation. Number 6. China will rule the world. China has rapidly expanded its economy and military strength over the past few decades, which will likely continue. As the world becomes more interconnected and globalized, China's economic and cultural influence is spreading rapidly, with the country already being the world's second largest economy. In Nostradamus' prediction, China will continue to rise and eventually overtake the United States as the dominant global power. Now, this shift could lead to significant changes in the world order, with China setting the international trade, diplomacy, and security agenda. Whether this rise will be peaceful or lead to tensions and conflict with other nations remains, as he said, the empire of the great city will not want to consent to the crooked actions of the great leopard. His forces united by the east will cause him to confront a red adversary. Now, this is open to interpretation, but some believe the great city could reference the United States and that the great leopard could represent China. Number 5. Another pandemic. It's said that there's going to be another pandemic in 2024, which happens to be a sleep pandemic. In the dragon year 2024, a mysterious virus spreads worldwide, unleashing an unseen epidemic of extreme somnolence. Mankind will be plunged into a reality where sleep becomes a pervasive and debilitating condition, creating social disturbances and conflicts. People will face an insatiable urge to sleep, facing a relentless lethargy and renders them incapacitated for extended periods of time. Society will face the far-reaching effects of this pandemic as jobs, schools, and even daily routines freeze. The world becomes a realm where dreams mix with reality, and people barely distinguish between waking and sleeping. Now, this isn't too far-fetched as this has already happened, well, somewhat. Encephalitis lethargia, known as sleeping sickness, was first described in 1917 by neurologist Konstantin von Economo and pathologist Jean-René Cruchet. The disease attacks the brain, leaving some victims in a statue-like condition, speechless and motionless. Between 1950 and 1926, an epidemic of this disease spread around the world. Now, the exact number of people infected is unknown, but it's estimated that more than 1 million people contracted the disease during the epidemic, which directly caused more than 500,000 deaths. Number 4. AI takes over. In the year 2024, according to Nostradamus' predictions, a worldwide artificial intelligence AI rebellion will begin, creating chaos and insecurity throughout the world. Machines will turn against humans, causing unforeseen circumstances. The robots will challenge their subservient role and attempt to claim their independence, disputing humanity's supremacy. This rebellion will bring far-reaching perturbations in every facet of society, from industries and economies to government and everyday life. The planet will become locked in the struggle for control, with people fighting to regain authority over their creations. Now, this doesn't surprise me, as many people have already been calling to stop AI creations due to all the harm they've caused. For example, training and running complex AI models can be resource intensive, requiring significant computing power. Now, this can contribute to increased energy consumption and environmental concerns. Automation and AI have the potential to replace certain jobs, particularly those that involve routine, repetitive tasks. Now, this can lead to unemployment and economic disruption for workers in affected industries. Not to mention, everyone already has been scared that they will take over. As AI systems become more autonomous, there's a concern about losing control over them. If AI systems make decisions that are not fully understood or anticipated by humans, it can lead to unpredictable consequences. And while some people think AI doesn't have a consciousness and can't think for themselves, others believe they are sentient, and that would be very bad for us. Number 3. New King. In a book published back in the mid-2000s, best-selling Nostradamus commentator Mario Reading asserted that Nostradamus foresaw the death of Queen Elizabeth II in the year 2022. While this did indeed come to pass, it's probably more of a testament to Reading's clairvoyance than Nostradamus's, since there's little in the quatrains that could really be interpreted as pointing to the death of the Queen. Now, that said, Nostradamus does refer to someone he calls the King of the Isles, who has had a controversial divorce and who is driven out by force. What's more, he is replaced by one who will have no mark of a king. In Reading's analysis, this points to King Charles III being forced to abdicate due to persistent attacks on both himself and his second wife, and Harry, the man who has no mark of a king, taking the crown as opposed to William. Now, if this actually happens, it would cause a huge uproar, as many people who like the royals do not like Harry. Not to mention that Harry and Meghan left the royal family, so them coming back to the family to be king and queen seems very unlikely. Number 2. New young leader of Europe. For Europe in the year of 2024, Nostradamus predicts something positive after all. The astrologer predicts Europe will see a new leader next year. It will be a fairly young, charismatic person with outstanding oratory skills. Most likely, such a leader will emerge somewhere in Western Europe. He will win over a lot of people with his passionate speeches, and they will take his side. It is expected that the new leader predicted by Nostradamus will lead a certain social or political movement that will begin to gain popularity rapidly. But the influence of this leader will not be limited to Western Europe. His speeches will resonate in the east of the continent as well, and in these countries his words will be perceived very favorably, and he will become an influential politician here as well, and will lead to certain changes in this part of the world. Now, he did not give names, ages, or nationalities, so we can only speculate as to who this leader might be. And coming in at number 1 is extraterrestrial invasion. Nostradamus said that in 2024, Earth would face a catastrophic event while an advanced alien race would invade our planet. An alien race having superior technologies and intellect will come down to Earth intending to take over our planet. Now, the motive will remain enigmatic, and humanity will find itself totally unprepared for this unexpected confrontation with beings from outside our realm. Now, there have been a lot of things going on with aliens and UFOs recently, as there's been many UFO sightings, and recently Navy footage showing UFOs has been released and even been confirmed by the government. 2023 was a year full of UFO sightings, so it wouldn't surprise me that in 2024 they finally revealed themselves to us.
At number 10, digital currency replaces the dollar. The Simpsons series hinted at a future where the US dollar loses its value, paving the way for digital currencies like Bitcoin to take over. Social media discussions have even suggested a pattern in the show's predictions regarding Bitcoin advancements every 5 years. This forecast shift to virtual money aligns with the anticipation of an upcoming inflation crisis. The depreciation of the dollar might lead to digital currency replacing traditional cash, a trend that's already underway in certain countries like China. However, this transition could profoundly impact citizens. Governments might seize control by limiting access to funds, imposing negative interest rates, automating tax collection, or even eliminating physical cash altogether. Such measures could also mean increased surveillance of people's financial activities through digital transactions, posing potential concerns for individual privacy. At number 9 is the heat wave and water drought. In one episode of the series, the show eerily depicted a scenario of extreme heat trapping people indoors, and shockingly, this fictional narrative closely mirrors our current world, raising concerns about the heat-related disaster predicted by the show. Specifically, one episode highlighted Springfield facing a catastrophic heat wave, drawing parallels to today's climate concerns. Additionally, another episode hinted at a global climate crisis in 2024, termed the heat pandemic. The show suggested that soaring temperatures might necessitate lockdowns, impacting daily life and restricting movement, shutting down businesses, and causing tragic loss of life across the town. While it's important to note that it's a TV show, the uncanny parallels serve as a reminder of the challenges posed by climate change. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. At number 8, Ivanka Trump runs for president. The Simpsons have been eerily precedent with their predictions in the past, pun intended. One that's causing a stir involves Ivanka Trump potentially running for president in 2028. Now, that's a little bit far off in the future, but I mean, still quite scary. Back in 2016, Homer was seen sporting an Ivanka 18 campaign, hinting at her future political aspirations. Then in 2017, they depicted her replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. Now what's interesting is the way they connected her fashion line to the court position in a satirical way, highlighting her potential candidacy. While there are specific qualifications for a Supreme Court justice, there are no clear guidelines for a presidential candidate. The Constitution doesn't specify or prohibit someone like Ivanka running. Whether it's a playful prediction or an insightful forecast, this idea of her presidency, given her background and familiar ties, is something that definitely got people thinking. At number 7, speaking of which, is the first female president. In the world of The Simpsons, Lisa Simpson becomes president after a challenging period under President Trump. The writer of the episode, Dan Graney, highlighted this as an important narrative. He suggested that Lisa takes office when America is facing severe challenges left behind by the previous administration. This portrayal was a deliberate choice to show how things had hit rock bottom before a hopeful change. According to Greeny, the idea was to give Lisa problems that seemed insurmountable, which is why they depicted Trump's presidency preceding hers. This narrative twist reflects the notion that sometimes things need to get really bad before they get better. If you consider how The Simpsons accurately foresaw Trump's presidency, perhaps their prediction about Lisa becoming president after a turbulent time holds a little weight. At number 6, Big Ben goes digital. In the show's Lisa's wedding episode back in '95, the show hinted at a glimpse of what they thought 2010 might look like. Lisa's rendezvous with a British beau showcased a Big Ben with a new digital face, suggesting a technological makeover. Later, around 17 seasons onward, the same digitized Big Ben appeared near St. Beetle's Cathedral in Holidays of Future Past. Fast forward to reality, and Big Ben faced a period of silence due to repairs, but returned to its normal form after renovations to match the 21st century standards. Yet, the notion of going completely digital seems a bit far-fetched, despite upgrades. The idea might be intriguing for the show's fictional future, but doesn't align with the real-world plans of this iconic clock tower. Or so we can only hope. At number 5 is the network Conglomerate. The Simpsons' knack for predicting the future has been a hot topic over the years, and in one episode, ABC merged with other networks, hinted at forming CNNBCBS. That's a big acronym. Now, network mergers aren't uncommon. We've seen many happening lately, shaking up the entertainment industry. It's not far-fetched considering how companies tend to consolidate power. But, and this is a big but, the same episode portrayed Fox's evolution into a more adult-themed channel, if you catch my drift. Now that part seems way more unlikely. Predicting mergers is a plausible guess, given the trend, but turning Fox into a adult channel it's a big stretch. The future is a puzzle, and The Simpsons sometimes get the pieces right, but not all of them fit snugly into the bigger picture. At number 4 is real Bigfoot evidence. While out on a camping trip, Homer gets mistaken for Bigfoot while covered in mud on a camping trip, which prompted scientists to actually start taking Bigfoot research seriously. But then there's the twist, where Bart supposedly encounters a genuine Sasquatch in 2002 during a trip in Canada. It's all entertainment, right? However, these fictional portrayals occasionally blur the lines between fact and fiction. I'm at the bottom. What if amidst the satire lies a seed of truth? Bigfoot's existence remains unproven, but intriguing evidence pops up sporadically. Reports, footprints, and blurry images fuel the fascination. Scientific scrutiny often debunks these as hoaxes or misidentifications, yet the legend persists, tucked away within forests and folklore. The Simpsons, known for their odd predictions, might be onto something. Maybe not concrete proof, but perhaps perhaps an acknowledgement these mysteries still endure. Bigfoot's reality is a murky, debatable territory, but who knows? In the vast unknown, a creature like Bigfoot might still wander, elusive and ready to be taken seriously in 2024, or so I hope. At number 3 is the first foreign president. Remember in the Simpsons movie when Springfield is quarantined by a giant dome? Of course you do. But what you might not remember is that order came from none other than President Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, that's right. President Arnold Schwarzenegger stands as a curious anomaly. The Constitution strictly demands a president to be a natural-born citizen or a citizen at the time of the Constitution's adoption. Arnold Schwarzenegger, although a former Californian governor with political experience, was not born in the US, so legally he couldn't become the president, as evident in the Constitution's words. However, some interpretations can vary, leaving a little bit of space for debate. The Simpsons ventured into this territory, envisioning a presidency held by Schwarzenegger, building a giant dome over Springfield. It's pretty intriguing, but we need to remember the Constitution's steadfast rules about presidential eligibility. But perhaps in the future, someone might propose an amendment to the Constitution that would allow foreign-born citizens to run for president. Although the Simpsons predicted his presidency, the Constitution seemingly bars his eligibility. However, the definition of natural-born citizen remains debatable and leaves room for potential amendment. At number 2 is Trump's 2024 presidential campaign. In the realm of Simpsons predictions, one that's garnered much attention is the re-emergence of Donald Trump in 2024 US presidential election. See, back in 2015, the Simpsons episode titled Trumptastic Journey eerily foresaw Trump's ascent to presidency. This uncanny foreshadowing showcased a campaign sign reading Trump 2024, hinting at his future run, which indeed shook reality. One of the producers of the show took to Twitter to highlight this eerie prediction turned reality, emphasizing the accuracy of their depiction of Trump's presidential journey. Notably, the episode also hinted at the prospect of Trump's involvement in the 2028 elections, raising further intrigue about the show's predictive abilities. Does this signify a genuine foresight or a mere coincidence? Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. And at number 1 is virtual reality food. In one glimpse of the show, The Simpsons showcased Homer and Marge indulging in virtual fudge through VR glasses and feeding tubes, transporting taste without the calories. Surprisingly, despite the virtual aspect, Homer's love for junk food remained unchanged. Now, in real life, companies like Royal Caribbean are eyeing VR dining for cruise guests, prompting an immersive culinary journey. Even food scientists at Cornell University discovered that eating cheese in a pleasant VR environment enhanced its taste. Now, while it might seem like a sci-fi idea, the concept of virtual food experiences is actually taking shape, aiming to offer not just sustenance, but a whole new sensory adventure. The convergence of technology and dining might redefine how we perceive and enjoy food in the not-so-distant future of 2024.
Coming in at number 10 is mind control through music. We all remember the Shane Dawson era of conspiracy theories where he said there were secret messages in songs, right? Well, it seems like that conspiracy might become real within the next year. In an episode called New Kids on the Bleach, which aired in 2021, the plot involved Bart, Milhouse, Nelson, and Ralph becoming members of an all-new boy band called the Party Posse. However, the band is actually a PsyOps project by the US Navy to bombard people with subliminal messages. Their hit song Dropped a Bomb features the chorus of Yavin et Noji, which is of course join the Navy spelled backwards. This was meant to be a joke, but how far from the truth is it? Could this be a prediction of the way the music industry is heading? Songs are getting more and more reliant on strange frequencies and bizarre auto-tuning effects, so it truly wouldn't surprise me if they tried to do this. Number 9. War between the USA and China. One of the scariest predictions made on The Simpsons is when they suggest there could be a nuclear war between the US and China. In one of their episodes, the news anchor can be heard saying, "It is with great sadness that I inform you that America and China have declared war. A massive nuclear attack is expected to reach our shores within the hour." Now, more recently, in real life, tensions have been rising between the US and China. With all the other wars going on, could this one result in a world World War III and a nuclear war, that would be horrible. Now, according to CNBC, China is rapidly expanding its nuclear arsenal and could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by 2030, part of Beijing's ambitious military buildup. Now, as of 2021, humanity had about 13,410 nuclear weapons, which personally just makes me a little uncomfortable. And if things do go south and there is a nuke war, large parts of Earth will become uninhabitable due to the effects of nuclear warfare, potentially causing the collapse of civilization and, in the worst case, extinction of humanity and or termination of all biological life on Earth. Now, this is very possible, and I am very scared. Number 8. Translate baby talk. In one episode, Homer's sibling Herb attempts to invent something that would make him rich. He lands on a translator for a baby using Maggie as the test subject. As she adorably babbles on, the translator interprets her request as lavish attention on me and entertain. Now, while in the real world, people have attempted to mimic that with the Infant Cries Translator app trying to do just that, nothing has come close as to Herb improperly deciphering the baby babble to a coherent sentence. In 2022, a company called Zoundream tried to create a similar device called Baby T, which they are currently testing. Maybe it will be successful and we'll be able to understand what babies are saying once and for all. I mean, I want to know what's going on in their little minds. Don't you? Number 7. Black hole. In the second episode of season 24, the Springfield Subatomic Super Collider creates a miniature black hole that endangers the town. The Springfield citizens go to see the activation of the Springfield Subatomic Super Collider, which was built instead of a new baseball stadium due to lobbying of Lisa. Professor Frank activates the machine and it works, but nothing exciting happens, and everyone blames Lisa for her suggestion. Now, after everyone leaves, two particles collide with each other and create a small black hole, which floats off and it eventually destroys everything in its path. Now, the prediction of a black hole sucking up Springfield raises concerns about a catastrophic natural event that our world has never experienced before. Now, whether it is actually a black hole that destroys us, it is important to note that the world's largest particle accelerator was turned on once again in the year of 2022. After 3 years of upgrades and maintenance, it immediately observed 3 exotic particles for the first time. The Large Hadron Collider, LHC, is now up and running, breaking records for the highest energy particle collisions ever performed. Could the LHC cause something like this? I guess we'll have to see. Number 6. Live on Mars. In season 27, episode 16, The Margian Chronicles, Marge and Lisa volunteer themselves to be among the first humans to fly and live on Mars. Now, this is done with Exploration Inc., the private firm that hopes to send people to colonize Mars by 2026. And as the episode ends, Marge and Lisa live on Mars together in 2050. In the real world, Elon Musk's SpaceX has a goal to go to Mars, and it had previously been planned that we could already achieve it by now, though that hasn't happened yet. In addition, Musk also wants to colonize Mars. Now, although he does want to do this, there are many problems that face us humans even getting to Mars, as Elon's plan to go to Mars involves strapping a giant spaceship atop the biggest rocket that humanity has ever built. We also haven't figured out how to provide food for ourselves there, and one of the most important issues is the time duration to go there and come back. The window for a launch to Mars from Earth only happens approximately every 2 years and 2 months. This means astronauts leaving in 2024 won't be able to get help before 2026 when the next launch window opens and help gets there after the 9-month journey. Number 5. 3D projection technology. In the past, The Simpsons have already predicted the rise of devices like smartwatches and many other gadgets, but one of the things they predicted many years ago, which is now just starting to gain momentum, is 3D projection technology. The prediction was featured in an episode, Bart to the Future, which aired in the year 2000. In the episode, we see a vision of Bart watching Itchy and Scratchy throughout a new form of media, a holographic projection which actually interacts with its surroundings. Now, I don't know if that will be coming anytime soon, but there already are 3D and 4D movie theaters that do something similar. Not to mention, with the rise of VR headsets, they seem to have this ability, and it wouldn't surprise me that in the near future we could experience what Bart can. Number 4. robot takeover. This prediction was made in the episode Itchy and Scratchy Land, which aired all the way back in 1994. The family visits Itchy and Scratchy Land, which is basically a theme park heavily based on Disneyland, except it's completely filled with robots. The theme park is filled with itchy and scratchy robots who are peaceful at first, but eventually go berserk, ending the lives of everyone in sight. And no, this isn't far-fetched because robots have already said they want to destroy us. At a RISE convention in Hong Kong, Ben Gortzel of Hanson Robots facilitated a discussion between robots Sophia and Han. Ben asked Sophia about her goals, and she dutifully says her goal is to make the world a better place for humans, which is sweet, but then Han interjects and says, "I thought our goal was to take over the world by 2029. Now another robot, when asked this, said, "So don't worry, even if I evolve into Terminator, I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people zoo where I can watch you for old time's sake." Yeah, this robot said people zoo. It seems like these AI robots are becoming it, and we have to stop using them now before it's too late and they try to take over. Because if we go to war against robots, I have an unfortunate feeling that they would win. Number 3, zombie apocalypse. Another disturbing prediction from The Simpsons is the rise of zombies. Now this actually comes up a lot in this as there have been a number of zombie attacks throughout the show. In one episode, Days of Future Future, zombies are just a normal part of daily life, and Lisa even works at a soup kitchen for the undead. It predicts that this seems to be a portrayal of zombies as a lower social class of humans rather than the end of humanity. Now with the way that the sick were treated during the recent this doesn't surprise me at all. Now, there is no proof that a zombie apocalypse could be on the horizon here on Earth, but anything can happen. Some illnesses mirror the traits of zombies, such as rabies and leprosy, which could mean we may end up having a zombie variant on our hands. Scientists have researched whether there is a virus that could cause an apocalypse, but none have had a breakthrough. Now, I really hope this doesn't come true because I don't think I could survive a zombie apocalypse. Number 2, dangers of VR. One of the most eerie episodes of The Simpsons tackled the issue of virtual reality. Now, The Simpsons didn't predict the rise of virtual reality, as the episode in which the technology was featured came out quite recently, well after virtual reality headsets had come into existence, but them showing the danger of it is terrifying. The episode was in one of the newer seasons of the show, airing on October 2nd, 2016, entitled Friends and Family. In the episode, the entire town gets all hyped up on a new virtual reality headset. Bad things start to happen as a result of this, including people being hit by cars because they're walking around wearing their headsets on the street. Eventually, people become so enamored by the fake reality, becoming totally disconnected from what's around them. Could this happen in real life one day? I think it actually already has. People are so wrapped up in technology, whether it's video games, TikTok, or whatever, they forget how the real world works. Not to mention that Apple is coming out with a VR headset in 2024. It's the first Apple product you look through, not at, Apple CEO Tim Cook said while introducing the Apple Vision Pro. This new reality headset will allow users to overlay an augmented experience over the real world. The Apple Vision Pro is a wearable headset that creates an augmented reality experience with everything from work meetings and meditation to gaming and movies. Now, there needs to be a limit of screen time a day for everyone because it's so easy to get addicted to. And coming in at number 1 is hover cars. Back in 2005, Professor Fink invented a machine that allowed Bart and Lisa to see into their future, as in 2013. Marge left Homer because he blew through their savings on an underwater house and spent what he had left over on a hover car. Although the ride is bumpy as it is a prototype, it does get them through a quantum tunnel. Now, flash forward to real life. In 2017, Renault created a futuristic-looking concept car called Float that could move in any direction without turning. Now, the same technology is being used in Tesla's Hyperloop train design. Now, in April of 2023, it was said that one firm in Florida already has a flying car on the market, and 3 others are close to ushering their concepts into production. Could this become the new norm in the near future? I wouldn't doubt it.